1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome back to Monster Movie Fun Time Go, or if this is your first time listening, welcome. I am your host, Honey Bee.
And I am your other host, Precious D.
And we are a few best friends making our way through the history of kaiju movies. We started in 1933 with King Kong, and we have made it to 1996 with Gamera 2, Attack of the Legion. Holy crap, I can't believe we've made it to 96. But yeah, here we are, Gamera 2, Attack of the Legion. Go ahead. Tell us about the cast and the budgets and things. Precious?
Also called just Attack of Legion, and I saw one translation that called it Advent of Legion.
I saw that too, yeah.
Japanese title is Gamera 2 Region Shurai, which means Gamera 2 Invasion of Legion. Yeah, it's from 96. It's in color. It is produced by Daiei Films, but distributed by Toho. And yet they still have not worked out that Gamera versus Godzilla team up.
Too epic. It's too epic.
It's 100 minutes, and the box office was $6.5 million, but I don't see what the cost was. That's dollars. And directed by Shuzuki Kaneko, who would go on to direct another Gamera film, but also a Godzilla film. So good for him.
Oh, heck yeah. This is the same director, right? From the first, for Guardian of the Universe?
I believe it is.
I think so.
Check, though.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes, he directed all three of these movies. He did not direct the fourth kind of standalone one that comes later, but he will direct in 2001 Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. But before we get into it much further, we've got a little bit of kaiju news.
Ooh.
The biggest news is that we've already booked our hotel room for next year's G-Fest.
Yeah, baby.
So the thing is, those hotel rooms, the convention rate rooms, tend to go pretty quickly. When we found out about, when we decided to go this year, they were already long gone. So they announced just, a week, 2 weeks after the convention closed, that the link was up for next year. So I went ahead and booked them, because that Motel 6 we stayed in was shit.
It wasn't that bad. We just didn't have a working fridge.
Yeah, and not as bad as the cricket-infested one we stayed in on the way back.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. That was a legion in itself.
Yeah, that entire hotel, though, it wasn't just the room. That entire hotel was just under siege from swarms of stuff. So, there you go. The other news is that the video is up on our YouTube channel from my presentation at this year's G-Fest. And I'm already finding more and more things that I could maybe just do a RPG update panel next year. We'll see. I mean, it's just a couple things so far, but if it keeps up like this, there will be enough things to just do a new updated panel. But the real news is there's a teaser trailer out for Godzilla -1.
Wow! Wow, wow, wow!
So go onto the YouTube and find that. Looks pretty good.
Yeah, go watch that, baby. Hot off the press.
Yeah. And in sort of kaiju news, kaiju convention news, of course, we've mentioned this before, but in just a few short weeks, we will be at Kaiju Go in Fort Worth. You can check that out at kaijugo.com. And there's another little mini convention coming up in November in Dallas, and we are sponsors of that. And that is the DAMCon, or the DAM Con. I believe it's meant to stand for Destroy All Monsters. And I don't have a handy URL for that, but we'll put it in the show notes. And it's all over our Instagram and stuff. So we are official sponsors of that little mini convention.
Yeah, check it out. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, we'll
Catch
be hanging
us
out
at
all day.
Kaiju Go.
The guys from Kaiju Assault will be there. So that reminds me, I'm going to put one of our G-Fest interviews later in the episode. So I guess I may as well put in the one with the Kaiju Assault guys. And the author, Dane G. Kroll. He is in on that interview too, from Realm of Goryo. Goryo? I think is how he pronounces the monster. Anyway, we did a nice interview with those guys, and the Kaiju Assault guys will be at the DamnCon.
Woo!
So, now on with Gamera versus Legion, Attack of Legion. Our cast is Toshiyuki Nagashima as JG SDF Chemical School Officer Lieutenant Colonel Watarase.
Wow.
JG is just the Japanese ground self-defense force, basically the army, as opposed to like the air self-defense force, or I guess they call it the naval self-defense force. Miko Mizuno as Midori Honami, a curator at the Sapporo Science Center. And I think we're finally at the point where she's just a scientist. She is not a lady scientist.
Yay!
She's just allowed to be a scientist without any commentary about it. So, progress. Tamotsu Ishibashi, Defense Force Captain Hanatani. Mitsuro Fukikoshi as NTT Network Engineer Obitsu. He seemed to be working, I don't know what NTT is, but he seemed to be working directly with Midori at the Science Center.
Mm-hmm.
Ayoko Fujitani as Asagi Kusanagi, back from the previous film, a young girl with a psychic connection to Gamera.
Yay, Asagi!
So they're trying to make her Miki Sagusa.
Like Miki, yeah. Yeah, which I
the next
remember
one.
last in the and I didn't think that she did as much in this movie, but I really, really appreciated her presence. Like, I appreciated the comeback. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost just a cameo because she doesn't really have much direct effect at all on anything. She's just like, hi, remember me? I'm here too. Yasuki Kawazu as Akio Nojiri. That's Hanomi's supervisor. Akira Ohashi as Gamera. Mizuho Yoshida as Legion. All of them? Yukijiro Hotaru as beer factory guardsman and former Fukuoka police officer Osako, who witnessed the encounter with Geos in the previous film.
Man, he was hilarious. I really loved his little scene.
So he and Asagi are the through line. They are both in all three of these movies.
Hell yeah.
Honeybee, thoughts, first impressions, feelings, goals, aspirations?
Man. Wow, these kaiju look amazing. I don't know if there was much changed about Gams this movie, but it did look, I'm not sure, but there did look to be like a little bit more detail in his suit. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
That could just be because I did watch it. Like, sometimes I watch movies on my phone and sometimes I watch them on a TV. Like, it depends on where I'm at in the world. So I can't tell if there was actually more detail in Gamera's suit or if I could just see it better on the bigger screen. But the kaiju looked amazing. Like, wow. I can't even get over the special effects in this movie. Just the kaiju in general in this movie. The sets. It's so, so good. This... Like, Heisei era Gamera is just such a game changer, really. And it was there's so many parts in this movie that were, like, gory. Like I said, I really liked Asagi's, like, presence, like, her coming back. I did feel like the people in this movie weren't as like the characters didn't go as far as like the last movie, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't as much like development maybe, but they were still awesome. I thought they were very well acted. The characters were great. The kaiju was amazing. The kaiju battles were just like so freaking epic and just like holy shit, like so crazy. I honestly didn't know that if it could get better after Guardian of the Universe because like Gamera and Gaios just like wow, but man, Legion kind of reminds me too of Destroya, and not because they're similar, just because of how much that I loved them and couldn't believe like Destroya almost like takes Godzilla out. It's so crazy. And like I feel the same way about Legion. Like holy shit, almost Gamera's almost like no match for this power. You know what I mean? So it's so action packed from the very beginning, and it never loses it. There's such a good ratio of like people shit to kaiju shit. I just thought overall it's a really, really well-rounded film. It's so good. There were so many things that I loved about it. Yeah, I think initial thoughts are just like, wow, man, this is very impressive.
Destroya did take Godzilla out. There was just a spare left over at the end. Remember?
Don't say that! How could you?
But speaking of watching it, you can watch it on Amazon Prime or on Pluto TV free with ads.
Nice. Oh, I think it might be on YouTube also. I watched it on Prime, but when I was like looking things up, I think I saw it on YouTube also.
I see it for rent on YouTube.
Oh, okay, maybe that's
think
what
it's
it
up
was.
there. I don't think it's and on Google Play and Apple TV. But if you want to watch it for free,
yeah, for
you can
sure.
go to if you already have Prime, or you can suffer through the ads and watch it on Pluto. And it's a good thing I actually took notes this time. Because here's the Wikipedia summary. 1 year after the battle between Gamera and Gaios, Japan is invaded by a race of insect-like silicon-based alien life forms dubbed Legion that attempt to make Earth their new home. Gamera returns to Japan in order to defeat the aliens. The end.
Well, wow. Oh my gosh.
And I didn't realize that, but I decided to actually take notes this time, and it's a good thing I did.
Yeah, no kidding. That's funny. I took notes as well.
So we start off with some computer shit, bunch of screens, some doodly-doo.
Oh, and also the music that we start out with is kind of like James Bondy. Like it's a little 007-y in the beginning. I was like, oh shit. Okay, action-packed from the very beginning. The title sequence and the title sequence music were sick.
The music is by Kao Otani. Kao Otani. Kao with a K. Then we get a bunch of Americans saying American stuff. I think they were stock footage. I don't think they're... I think they were just like some NASA stock footage or something, because a lot of the voiceover, they're not... It cuts away, or their lips are kind of moving, but they don't seem to quite sync up with what they're saying.
And the voices are very obviously like dubbed, like not...
Yeah.
Like they're really cartoony almost.
And I part watched this subtitled and part watched it dubbed because I have it on Blu-ray, and it gives you both options on the Blu-ray.
Nice.
But they're talking about there's 48 hours before a freak meteor shower, or no, 48 hours before something, and they're saying to just say it's a freak meteor shower, but they know it's not. And we cut to a field trip, and our heroine
for the babies.
Midori is leading some kind of field trip from the science center, I guess, to watch meteors, but she gets a call from her supervisor saying that basically there's a big ass meteor heading right for you. And before they can evacuate, it hits nearby, and we get a title card.
Gamera 2. Bam, bam, bam.
And we cut to a military base where a disaster squad has been requested. And the army goes out to examine the crater and there's no meteor. And they talk about some of the markings making it look like it slowed down, decelerated. Somebody talks about the, okay, I can't remember, Sukunga, the big impact in Russia that left no meteor behind because it was a big chunk of ice. And so it sort of exploded right above the ground, flattened all the trees into a bowl-like shape for miles around, but didn't leave an actual meteor behind. It was like a piece of a comet, this big chunk of ice. So they're speculating that maybe it was something like that. And then there's a news report about it.
It definitely couldn't be aliens.
Yeah. The thing is, these people just a year ago had to deal with Gamera and Gaios, but they didn't come from outer space. So
Right.
they
I think
don't
this is the
immediately
first time
jump
that
to...
we've had like an alien type situation in a Gamera film.
No. Virus and a couple of the others. There's been a couple that came from outer space, or they go to outer space. You remember all those space ladies? And Panchitos and Panchitas getting onto spaceships and shit?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I just always think about, like,
there's
when
been a
we
lot
do,
of
like,
space
Godzilla
nonsense,
movies,
Gamera.
like, it's usually something from space.
And I think originally he came from outer space, but in this series, he's implied that he's from Earth and is just ancient and is some kind of ancient guardian of Earth. But in the original series, he came here from somewhere else. Anyway, we go to the Sapporo Science Center, and they're having computer problems, and it's working, but they can't connect to the network. And she's talking to this guy. Man, this movie is a real throwback to the tepid romances that don't go anywhere. There's sort of a threat of a love triangle, but it just never materializes. So this is our first look at one of the angles. Obitsu, the tech guy, is trying to help her fix the computer, but can't seem to do anything. But it seems to me throughout the film that this guy likes her, but it doesn't go anywhere at all. And then they start getting calls about green glow towards Lake Shikotsu. And so Midori and her boss get in a car or a truck or something and drive out there to investigate, and then it stalls out. I don't know if this is a bunch of sort of Close Encounters influenced stuff. Have you ever seen that movie?
Mm-mm.
The aliens have a tendency to make electronics stop working in that movie.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because, like, when they say that, when he's like, oh, like, the car stalls out and everything goes dark, and she's like, what's happening? And he's like, oh, maybe all of the electronics don't work. And it's like, but you're driving a car. Is it an electric car? What year is it? I don't think so.
Well, no, there's
stop?
there's electronics in your car that if they don't work, there's, the battery and the alternator and all that kind of stuff. If there's an electromagnetic pulse or something interfering with electrical currents or something like that, it is going to make your car fuck up. It doesn't have to be electrical powered. There's enough other electrical stuff going on. There's a battery in there and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then the army confronts them, is like, hey, this is restricted space, and then cuts immediately to them helping fix the car, getting it started again. So whatever is affecting it, it didn't permanently damage the car. They were able to get it going again. And then they start talking with the army guys about what they're doing there and the research and something about the meteor moving. And why would the meteor cloud suddenly come to Earth? I mean, we pass through clouds of stuff all the time, and that's why we get meteor showers. And it seemed like a weird question to me. Although usually we do know, because we've plotted things out so well these days, we usually know when there's going to be a big shower because it's something we know we're going to pass through.
Yeah.
So this did seem like a surprise. I mean, any day of the week you might get a meteor or two. If you're somewhere where the sky's dark, any night you'll see a few if you look long enough. But then, one of the guys goes to light a cigarette and the lighter flares up really big, which we'll find out later is because there's excess oxygen in the area. Then we cut to a beer factory.
I love this part. I love these dudes. They made me laugh.
So, and I didn't recognize him at first, but they do a newspaper reveal on our former police detective. You know what I mean? He's reading the newspaper while the other guy's talking, and then he puts the newspaper down, and we're all supposed to go, "Hey, it's that guy!" Only I didn't recognize him.
Yeah, and then even like their conversation when he's like, didn't you do this in the last film? And he's like, not exactly. Yeah. I couldn't hack it.
Yeah, just in case you didn't recognize him, they have a conversation about how he used to be a detective.
Right.
And they stumble on some creatures messing around with the beer, and there's a purple
the sound
glow.
Effects of the like tink 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 of the like little insect feet are so creepy. So good.
So there's a purple glow, and then they see the monster, and it spills a bunch of beer.
And we see an eyeball.
Oh, and this actor will also be. I wrote this in my notes before I realized that the director was going to direct the Godzilla movie. That actor's going to be in that Godzilla movie, so that would be why.
Oh, hell yeah. Nice.
So let's see. The monster spills the beer, and then we cut to NTT in Hokkaido. I never looked up what NTT for. National Technology something. I have no idea. And Midori's there.
Yeah, and in this part, she says something about Gamera and Gaios, so we really know, like, we already knew, but we really know at this point, like, oh, okay, this is, like, a real sequel. You know, sometimes we get a sequel, but it's not really a sequel. It's kind of like, do they know what happened in the last film? But here we really see, like, oh, okay, like, yeah, that happened. Everybody knows what happened in the last film.
Yeah. And she notices, they're tracking these reports of weird shit, and she notices that they are moving north. And the cell phone rings, and what's his name is like, come over here to answer it because computers and cell phones don't mix. I don't remember that ever being the case. I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, you know how, like, I've seen that in, like, hospitals. You know, you can't have cell phones in hospitals because they'll, like, fuck up with certain computers. Certain monitoring things.
They used to claim it was an issue on airplanes. I'm not sure if it ever actually was. Because I remember way back reading something about it's not really an issue. They just I don't know what their reasoning was. They just thought it could potentially be an issue and didn't, because it's an airplane, they didn't want to take any chances. So anyway, the army has called Midori about the beer. And she goes to check it out. And because the guy remembered what she said, so he called her in to consult about it. And she says, what a waste of beer. Mm-hmm. And we find out that they actually sort of just took the glass. The beer, they took the glass and left the beer behind. They didn't break the bottles and spill the beer. They chemically dissolved the glass, leaving the beer behind.
That is a fucking waste. That is a waste of beer.
And we watch a video of Osako being traumatized, being interrogated and being obviously traumatized. And
he's like, it's a crab, or it's a bug, or it's something. I don't know. Please believe me.
Yeah. And he's very much, why me? Why always me? And they talk about how he reported Gaios a year ago, or a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But they left behind silicone powder, and the beer was untouched. The glass was chemically dissolved. And then they speculate some about aliens. And then they go outside in the snow, where I noticed Midori is wearing a very short skirt for the weather.
Ugh. The movie is progressive, but we are not.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it was very cold, and everybody else was bundled up, and she's wearing this really short skirt, and I felt bad for her.
She's also wearing a jacket and a scarf, so I'm pretty sure she's fine.
I don't know. It just seemed like maybe she had thick stockings, but it looked like, hey, put the girl in a short skirt, but it's cold out. I don't care. Put her in a short skirt. Then we cut to the Odori subway, where the tunnel is blocked by a wrecked train, and the monster sucks out the windows of the new train and attacks.
Oh man, this part is traumatizing. It is so creepy.
And surprisingly gory. There's just
So
a quick
gory.
splatter of somebody's blood on the window. And he's also gone so far as to suck the lenses out of a pair of eyeglasses.
Ew. And spit out the frames. Patooey.
The frames hit the ground. There's no lenses in them. So we know
And there's
that they
like
were
blood
not
covering
plastic.
them.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Let's see. Police block off the subway and give a bullshit story about some hazardous material to the press. And we see policemen getting killed by multiple monsters.
And they're so
legion,
good. Like
perhaps?
the deaths, the deaths are so good. They're not like corny at all. You know what I mean? They're very, very well done.
Yeah. And the police, Midori's watching the news and the police retreat. And then the building starts exploding in places. And circuits are down and mobile communications are gone. And then something starts growing out of the building. And the army arrives to kind of take over or coordinate with the police. But this was a weird moment. One of the officers tells the other officer, I think the captain tells the lieutenant colonel, that he's not allowed here. But I didn't see any explanation of why he wasn't allowed. But he doesn't give a shit. He just takes over anyway. There's some readings, the pressure of 4 atmospheres and oxygen at 87%, which is not normal. And they talk about how they were looking for a germ or a parasite, but found this, but we don't see what they've found. Yeah, they go down into the subway, and they're looking at something, but they don't show us yet what it is. Mm-hmm. They do find some survivors, and then they do this weird thing where it starts cutting to still shots of them taking the survivors.
Yeah, it's so funny artistic. When that started happening, I was like thinking like, oh shit, what's happening? Like, why is my movie fucking up? And I like rewound it, and then it did the same thing, and I was like, oh, it's like an artsy effect.
Yes. But only in this one part.
Yeah.
So the lieutenant colonel calls the governor. The captain gives a report on the oxygen. Oh, they do the meeting room thing, and there's some map work, or at least some big maps in the background. And the captain's giving a report on the oxygen and how too much oxygen can be poisonous. And the colonel reports that we can't coexist with these aliens. We have to fight them to the point of extinction.
Yeesh.
So, wow. And then he and Midori have a conversation about leafcutter ants.
Yeah, and it shows like a whole little, we get to see these ants like doing things. Like it shows us a whole little snippet of these ants.
Sadly not a film presentation, but it has the effect of one for the audience in that it just cuts to the things that she's talking about. Mm-hmm. But these are the kind of ants that cultivate. They said mushrooms. It's a fungus. I don't think it's actual like toadstools. But they cultivate a fungus, and she's speculating that these aliens have a similar relation. The pod. So the big thing that grew out of the building, they're referring to as a pod. And she's speculating that the little chittery alien monsters have a similar relationship to this pod that leafcutter ants have to the fungus that they cultivate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like where they both need each other. Like the fungus can't like live without the ant, and the ant can't live without the fungus, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And then they get a call that the pod is flowering, and he asks what color? She asks what color? I wrote down what color. Did one of them ask that, or did I just write that?
No. One of them definitely asked that.
Okay.
Like, what color is it?
I don't know that they ever get an answer or indicate why it might be important. Maybe they were just curious. Oh, flowers, pretty. What color are they? So
here comes the queen.
Yeah. There's an evacuation order, but the citizens take it with remarkable calm. There's like a police car driving up and down the street with a loudspeaker telling everyone to evacuate, and they just kind of stand there and stare at it, and they're like, oh, all right, I guess we'll evacuate in a minute here. Don't rush me. They start making plans to destroy the pod and planning explosives at the root. And then Bandit shows up. That's their little radio call name for the creatures. Bandit at 2 o'clock. Bandit at 3 o'clock. So I think they have a little shootout again.
Mm-hmm.
They say it'll be ready in 2 hours, but the radio's dead. And then the computer guy's doing something for Midori. Oh, he does a analysis of the explosion. That the two of them are afraid that if they blow this thing up, it will cause it to spread its seeds all over the place and into outer space.
Yes.
And that maybe that's how it got here to begin with, and that the army probably hasn't even considered the possibility, and their little computer model that they run shows it overwhelming the whole city, but then there's a systems error. The analysis is so distressing that the computer just shuts itself down, apparently. And they say that the city would be devastated. Then the green glow is back and the pod is activating. No time to escape. And the
bow to your queen, peasants.
The JNSDF deploys, and there's a bogey incoming, and it's Gamera. 30 minutes into the movie.
Gamera
shows up.
In, fools. Yeah. I love how fast he is.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like in the beginning movies, like, he was like, I don't know, he just was like moved a little bit slower. I feel like in these movies, his shape too, like he's more oval shaped. Mm-hmm. And he is so fast. Gamera is such a badass.
But yeah, he finally shows up 30 minutes into the movie. And there is no catchy theme song, though, to go with him.
Fight. No, there's not. He's way too hardcore in this movie for Gamera.
But I miss it. The pod is emitting pure oxygen, and they're afraid that this will cause a huge explosion. You know, if they set off their explosives and there's all this extra oxygen in the air, it's going to maybe be bigger than they anticipate, but they decide to do it anyway. And there's a fire in the tunnel. Suddenly the radio's working. I don't think, do they ever fully explain why the thing is interfering with radio and electric frequencies? They do a whole Goldblum later. Later on, they do some whole Goldbluming about putting all the pieces together, but I don't know that the radio the electronics ever.
No, they're mostly just like, no, it's a silicone-based life form, la 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 la. But I don't think they really ever talk about why that's happening.
So Gamera's coming, and the army takes positions in the tunnel, and Gamera lands hard and retracts his little. He's got little arm flaps for when he's flying, I guess, because they show a close up of him retracting them after he lands. He does kind of a skid landing, does a semicircle as he skids around, and so at this point I was watching the dub, but I also had the subtitles on. And in the dub, the colonel says, "Where the hell has he been?" But in the subtitles, it says, "What's he doing here?" Which are two quite different reactions, I think. Because, well, one is like, "Oh, thank goodness he's finally here. What took him so long?" And the other one is, "Oh shit, what the fuck does he want?"
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which is the true reaction there. But the army falls back. There's a bit with Gamera inhaling before he does his breath, and I thought it just looked really good. I think what they really did was breathe out some mist or vapor or something, and then run the film in reverse so we could see him look like he's inhaling. Because we can see something going into his mouth as he inhales. Anyway, he breathes fire at the pod and smashes shit up.
Yeah. Kaiju battle number 1.
The soldiers take cover, and Gamera prevented the pod from launching by burning it up. But then the Legion swarms Gamera.
He also kind of gets his ass kicked. Yeah. He does kind of get his ass kicked in this.
All the little legions swarm all over him. I also noticed the beer sign in the on the little tiny toy town. There was a beer billboard There's a Coca-Cola one too, but it was the same beer as was in the factory. This isn't, and it's an actual beer. It's not, movie brand beer. It's a real beer. And then the captain quotes Mark chapter 5, verse 9. He said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "I am Legion, for we are many," which is a well-known Bible verse, story about Jesus driving demons out of a man. And this is the one where he drives them into a herd of pigs and they throw themselves off the cliff. So, but the point is that the guy...
Have you seen that movie, Legion? I think it's called Legion.
There is a movie called
there's,
Legion
like,
that's
a
about
scary
some
old
angels.
lady, and she's like, all the little babies are gonna burn.
Is this the one about a bunch of angels and a diner?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point is that the guy is possessed by not just a demon, but multiple demons. Jesus drives them out. So many demons that they are legion.
Thanks, Jesus.
No problem, buddy. But Gamera goes down.
No.
But then he takes off erratically and bleeds green all over the building.
All over the window. They're just like looking out the window and the green blood is just coming down. Oh, that scene was so good.
The Colonel and Midori meet up. Legion looks dead, but then a big one flies out of the building, which then they continue to refer to as the big one throughout the movie. At the Tsugara Strait, a plane is confirming a target, trying to shoot Legion, and hits, and it seems to go down, but it's not dead. In the morning, they're doing a damage assessment, and there's reporters on the news, and they mentioning that they hit Legion, but the body was not found.
And she kills a lot of fucking people, too. Like, she kills most of the military.
Yeah. And then a couple of ski girls are talking to Daddy in New York on the phone. But is one of the ski girls Asagi? Or are these just two random ski girls? I think one of them's got to be Asagi. Otherwise, why do they spend so much time focusing on them? But I didn't realize it was her at the time. I was just like, why are we listening to this? They're on a payphone and talking to...
You didn't realize she even has the little necklace from the last
Right.
movie.
Well, it's a little bit later. Soon after this, when I saw her gripping it, is when I realized it was her. But in this scene, I didn't recognize her.
Oh, I see.
Midori's researching Gamera on the internet and has found a Gamera website, but it's in English. It's like an American website. There's not any Japanese ones, I guess. So the boss and the computer guy come to look at it and crash the site, which crashes in like a piece of paper crumbles up. The website turns into a piece of paper that crumbles up because they've somehow crashed it. And the boss says in the dub, "Do something. Don't be a bitch. Do something."
Jesus.
Yeah, he does not say, in the subtitles, he's telling him to do something, but he doesn't tell him not to be a bitch.
Wow. Midori
goes to the lab where they're dissecting one of the smaller legions, and the colonel's there, and the thing moves a little bit, but then we see Obitsu in a store waiting. He's going to Midori's house, but it's a little unclear what's happening at first. I think her parents run a pharmacy and they live upstairs from it. So he's standing there awkwardly getting the stink eye from her father while he waits for her to come down and get him. And so there's a little meeting with her and the colonel and Obitsu. And the whole time the father's kind of concerned about what's going on, and the mom keeps, come on, get away from there, leave her alone. And they talk about Legion moving by gas, not by muscles. His limbs are powered by gas. And they start putting all the pieces together about the silicon and semiconductors and glass and oxygen being released in the production of silicon, which is used or glass is used to produce silicon. And that it's easy to get, but not as easy in the city. So why would they do it in the city? But I think that's where the electronics come in. And then we see that Midori has a secret booze stash in her bookcase. And I wrote, she might have a problem. Her father doesn't approve, so she hides it from him. But it's also weird because it's a bunch of little tiny bottles like you get either at a hotel or on an airplane. So I don't know. I think she's been stealing them from somewhere and then hiding them so she can drink secretly, which is never a good sign. And there's some joking about having two men in her room and whatever, but none of this goes anywhere. Oh, but they speculate that they communicate electronically, and Legion doesn't like electromagnetic waves, so it's going to go to Tokyo. Because it doesn't like them, he's drawn to them to get rid of them, I think, or something. They interfere with his own communication, I believe. He's using electromagnetic waves to communicate, and so our electromagnetic waves are going to interfere, so that's why they get shut down, I guess. Anyway, this leads them to conclude that he's going to go to Tokyo because that's where the most electronic waves are. Let's take a little break here. We'll play that interview I mentioned earlier, and then come back to the rest of the movie.
This is TJ Storm, and you're listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go.
Folks, we're here at G-Fest. Honeybee's here with me. This is Precious D, and we're talking to the designers and developers of the Kaiju Assault card game.
Yes.
Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves for the audience.
I'm Jack Armstrong.
I'm Brandon Phillips.
And I'm Alan Birkenhoff.
Tell us a little bit about your game, the mechanics, the point.
Towards me. Okay. So we designed a giant monster fighting card game, taking a lot of the elements from the 70s up to about the mid-90s giant monster movies that we loved growing up as a kid. We found a way to translate that, what we visually saw, into a card game that we built from the ground up. So it doesn't play like other card games such as like your Magic and your Pokemon. Those are all fine and great games, and I mean clearly they're successful. But they didn't scratch the itch that I and Jack and Alan had with what we like with our interest in our hobbies. And so started with a coin flip and kind of ended with us marketing and selling our game.
Great.
Wow.
So it's not a collectible card game?
Yet.
No, it is not a collectible card game in the sense that you're like building your own deck or anything like that. Everyone's playing from the same deck in Kaiju Assault, and it's 2 to 4 players in that one deck. So you can add expansions, but all the expansions are just building on what's there.
Right.
It's giving you more monsters, more options.
Good.
There are some event exclusive cards that can be considered collectible because they're only sold at that event. But overall, it's not.
But it's not a money pit like Magic the Gathering.
Exactly.
That's not the phrase I wanted to use earlier, but since you said it, we're just going to run with what
I have
you said.
strong feelings about that marketing technique.
Yes.
Yeah.
You buy the starter set, you have everything you need to play, and it's your choice to go beyond that.
Good.
Correct.
Good.
And it's a situation of we may discontinue a set, but it's not because it was a defunct set. It's just because we moved on to like another set. So there may be only a couple, 200, 300, 400 printings of a card, but it's not like going to Magic or another, Pokemon where you can't have that card because it's broken or blah 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 blah. It's not one of those situations. We redesigned it. We made a new version. So there are multiple incarnations rather of cards, but nothing is ever blind bagged and unattainable.
Right. Yeah.
You can attain from us.
Yeah. It's not the baseball card blind packaging technique of
Scam in
selling.
there too.
If you buy a set, you're getting everything from that set. There is
Okay.
no need to buy multiples of the
Right.
same thing.
Right.
Chase figures or
Yeah.
anything of the
Yeah.
sort.
Now I play a lot of Munchkin, and I have a tendency to buy everything that comes out. But when they said they were turning Munchkin, they were making a collectible card game version of Munchkin, I was like, nope, not gonna do it.
Not gonna fool me.
Good plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, they just released the new set tied into a different thing, and I buy it anyway. And
Well, so they've got
So
you on
may
the
as
crack
well-
line, man.
yeah.
Your nose is drying up. They need to fix
And the
it.
thing is, since the pandemic, I never get to play anymore. Anyway, all my role-playing games are online now, so I certainly don't get to play any Munchkin.
Well, you're
But,
always welcome to play Kaiju Assault with us.
Yeah, so give us a little bit of an overview of the mechanics of the game. How does it work?
Did you want to take this or you want me to take this?
I spoke first. You're more than welcome to speak again. I'll allow it this one time.
So, as Brandon mentioned earlier, Kaiju Assault is a game about monsters fighting the monsters. You're not trying to find out who's taking out more of the city, not destroying anything else. You are attacking the monsters instead of attacking the player. So unlike Magic, you're not focusing on who's going to beat whose player. You're trying to take out their monsters directly. The game is broken into 5 different tiers of monsters. Yes.
I tried to kill
But we have 5 different tiers of monsters, and they range from tier 1s costing 3 points and tier 5 monsters costing 7 points. A typical game you can run would need 10 points. You can also do larger games. I usually say 10 or 20 points is a normal game. You'll use those points to build your army, so to speak, blind drawing from the tops of those tier piles.
So you use the points as you would money. So
Yes.
you have $20 to spend on your monsters.
Okay. Okay.
And then you would. Awkward pause.
I thought Jack would continue.
I was waiting for you to continue.
Oh.
So once you've got your monsters set up, you're going to start your turns by rolling for your attacks. So each monster will have its different attacks and abilities, and depending on the attacks and abilities of those cards, you'll roll your dice to see if you can hit or miss your target. Evens, hits, odds, miss. Very simple.
Nice.
All the rules are condensed down to 4 rule cards, front and back. Also very simple.
Good.
One of them has pictures.
Yes.
I designed that one.
We do recommend ages 7 and up, just simply because there is division, subtraction, addition, multiplication,
Okay.
and percentages.
Educational.
Yes.
However, I have been beaten at my own game by a 5-year-old. So don't think that just because one of us created the game or that someone's played it longer doesn't mean you're
I
not.
don't think I've won a game in I don't know how long.
That's how you know it's a good game.
We
losing
pride
is
ourselves
discouraging.
on balancing, so we've spent so much time balancing. One of the cards we recently came out with in the newest set, the legendary set, is called Setup Kaiju. Setup Kaiju is a monster that we've had the art done and completed for 4 years. We beta test these things to make sure and repetitively make sure that they are going to work in the game as we want them to work and fit correctly within the tiers that we put them in.
Beta testing is usually 3 hours total, 40 minutes of play, and the rest is arguing and throwing things at each other.
Bickering.
The B in beta is for bickering.
It's where you ultimately determine who your real friends are. You can have,
Actual battle.
you can have the heartfelt conversation if your card sucks, and nobody takes it truly personal. That's exactly what that boils down
Who
to.
designed
Only
this
a
trash?
little personal. A little personal sometimes. But we have mechanics in there that are more than just simply attacks. You have grab attacks from the Showa series. We took implements of that idea where you can hold the monster and have another monster attack them without having them get out of the way. So instead of having to roll a die, he's already grabbed, he's held, he can't get out, I'm just going to hit him. Then also we had the beam battles. If you
From
roll
the
a 6,
Heisei series.
yes, if you roll a 6 with a beam against a target that also has a beam available, creates a beam battle, and you both have to roll off to see who gets the highest number, and the loser takes the damage of the highest of the 2 beams.
Okay, so that's when they're both shooting their beams and they hit each other, and then it's a little bit of back and forth, and then
Like
somebody's beam overcomes.
That can be pretty lethal whenever you have a 100-point beam and you hit a target with a 6 and they have a 500-point beam.
Yep.
And you go 3 rounds, which every time you have to roll off, you add 100, and then you find out that you just lost the beam battle, and you take like 700 to your face, and you only had 400 HP.
Yep.
Which happened to me earlier today.
Yeah, that sounded specific.
Very specific.
Tell me a little bit about the monsters. These are your original monsters, mostly?
Yes. So Jack, as far as the starter pack goes, he created a hand. Well, we all created monsters, but I'd say that the bulk of the starter pack came from Alan and myself.
Yes.
I like to joke that Alan is the Kaiju Wrangler. And we kind of just,
ideas.
right? We just sit down with ideas, and it's like, hey, I think it'd be cool if a monster had this name or was this concept. Like, I've got a guy, his name is Tenpin. And at one time, I was a pretty avid bowler. And by that, I mean I would watch people bowl, and I thought I was doing it. Right? And so I thought it'd be really cool if for those familiar with, like, Power Rangers or what have you, Lord Zed would always, like, take concepts or items and make them into monsters. And he's most notorious for the giant purse. But I thought, well, what if...
Jingle machines and such.
Yeah. What would happen if Lord Zed made, like, a bowling monster, and in doing so, that's where my artist, I'm like, this is what I want, and he made shoulders out of bowling balls, and his spines are made out of bowling pins, and created some backstory for it, and it tends to be everybody's kind of a favorite whenever they realize what they're looking at. And then Alan, which I'll let him go into detail on his stuff, but he likes to look at it from a story point of view, but then he turns around and tries to make it forcefully educational. And so you can
learn, damn you.
Forcefully educational.
Yeah. Well, you can tell it's his card because there's big words. Or those words are in another language.
Yeah, French words.
Yeah, and so I'll let you mumble about that.
Okay, so yeah, I may start with any sort of influence, being a picture, an idea, or a name, and from that I'll use that as a focus for the different attacks and powers. Like one of the main monsters I think I'm probably most known for is Budgie-Gary-Gar.
Yes.
Which is a
budgie-gar?
giant budgie, a parakeet.
Yeah.
And so I came up with the backstory that there was a guy who borrowed money from the mob who was going to make a film with it. Well, he spent it before he got it. So the mob's coming for him, and he needs to make a movie quick. So he grabs his daughter's parakeet and makes a small city, and then films the parakeet stomping through the city, and then films a couple of human actors, and then makes Zarkor kind of film. Mm-hmm. And so all the attacks are like Gamera, which is Gamera is the place where the parakeets were originally found, and little stuff like that. And so he's got like a sonic screech because parakeets screech,
right.
And then he's got a mimicry because they can mimic voices and that. So he's got a pretty lethal attack that he can mimic the last attack thrown at him. But on the card, he looks just like a sweet little parakeet destroying a city.
Nothing special.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's one of my favorites. But I usually, as I say, I do try to mix in some education, languages, math, scientific terms. There's a couple I'm working on that are English terms and based on languages and stuff.
So the English teacher's gonna love you.
Yeah, and I want people to play the game, see the word, and then later they associate, I've seen that term before.
Right.
And then it sinks home that it makes the moment of recognition, and it all brings it together.
Cool. And you've licensed a few monsters
Yes.
from our upcoming guest here in a moment.
Yay! Everybody loves Dane.
Dane's chilling on the floor over there, folks.
It was kind of I don't want to say it was an accident, but Dane, who I'm assuming you'll hear from here in a bit, it was just several G-Fests ago, back when we were in the other hotel. He basically spent 3 days of listening to me say the same thing over and over again.
This table was right next to ours.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the artist alley at the time.
Exactly. And as it was mentioned, as far as stamina goes, you have to treat the first customer the same way you treat the last customer, and vice versa. And I'm typically really good at being as consistent as possible. And well, that means Dane heard me at like a level 7 for 3 days, and then finally just one day he reached in and goes, "What do I have to do to get my monsters in your game?" And it was kind of like I have to know something about your monsters, but okay. And he gave me some books. I gave him a starter pack and some stuff, and it was a handful of months later I sat down to actually read the books, and I started sending him like thoughts and ideas. And I think at one point he kind of had the idea that wasn't going to go anywhere, and like nothing was going to happen. And then he started getting these like obscene text messages from me. And when I say obscene, so when I say obscene,
his chest is on the internet, by the way.
Well, it was just like, hey, this monster does this. That's fucking cool, you know. And yes, I censor myself. But with that, he was just like, oh wait, you're actually reading the book. Yeah. And so I came up with some ideas, but he led into another author that reached out and said, hey, I noticed you got this game. What would it do to have like a whole page of licensed characters? I'm willing to loan you my characters and blah, blah, blah. And then that ended up within like a 4 or 5 month time period. I wound up with 4 licenses and contracts, and Dane being one of them. And it's kind of a 10% deal, since we have to, typically we front for the art and the printing, and we just, whatever we do, we give the artist, the creator 10%, and then we take off of our sales. And every time we print, they get their cut, as long as they're allowing us to print. Yep. And with Dane, it has spawned into, I think we're on our 5th or so pack. I've kind of lost.
We've got
4th
4
maybe
expansions directly, and we've got a whole bunch of exclusive cards.
Yeah. So as we mentioned exclusive, he actually has cards we don't sell. So there are indeed chase cards out there.
But I think Brandon just does this so he can get early copies of the book.
Sure.
So I do receive early copies of
How helpful that is. His missing chapter.
That early.
Oh wait, so you're telling me I have to reread the books? No.
Now that everything's in order.
Yeah. So,
I
that's kind of how that
I do a little bit of writing myself, and I do tend to write in little patches and then try to piece it all back together and make sure, and then go through and say, okay, did I leave anything else out, or did I go from point A to point C and not connect those two things? So sometimes there's a little patchwork that needs to be done when you think you're finished.
So Dane just joined us.
Yes.
Hello, everybody.
We're going to talk to Dane. We're going to talk to Dane here, but quickly, gentlemen, tell me, where can we find your games?
So the easiest way to find the game, not that I want everybody to go to our website, we actually have 4 Prime members. We are available on Amazon. If you do that, please leave a review and such. It helps us, but it also helps the algorithm. You can go to kaijuassault.com, which is a very easy Google search from what I'm told. And we have a store, and everything is essentially available on the store to some degree of a bundle or starter pack concepts. We even have some posters and some other things. But we typically wait several weeks after we release a new pack. So we debut pretty much everything at G-Fest, and that's where you get the new content. And it'll take it a month or two before that content is available on the site. So it does encourage people to not only come and see us, but it gives us time to figure out exactly how we want to set it up as far as that goes.
Well, folks, if you're listening to this, you're already too late, because G-Fest will be over by the time we post this. But you can go to their website. We'll post links to the website, and of course you can find them on Amazon. And now let's bring Dane Kroll in here.
Here are Dane.
Tell us a little bit about your work, sir.
Hello, everybody. I'm gonna sit on this. Hopefully, it doesn't break.
Why are you trying to be cooler than me? I don't like this.
It just comes natural. I am Dane G. Kroll. Resume you want? Author, TV show host.
Tell us about your TV show host.
Oh, I host a morning lifestyle show over in Northeast Kansas. So if you're in the Manhattan, Topeka, Emporia area, check me out on Fox.
I don't know how many listeners we have there.
You never know.
Apparently, we're big in Sri Lanka. I recently discovered.
Well, hello, Sri Lanka. But no,
tell us about, what is this, Realm of
Realm of Goryeo. Yes, this is my book series. It is. We are 6 books in at this moment, so anytime, jump on in, everybody, readers. It is I almost want to say love letter to the kaiju universe, kaiju genre, kind of inspired by the Showa era of Godzilla. But growing up watching those movies, I always felt that they needed more continuity, and they needed just more follow-up, I guess.
What?
So, yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. So when I started writing Realm of Goryo, I kept that in mind of I want all the craziness, all the wackiness, like Godzilla versus Megalon. You've got the aliens, you've got the Cetopians, you've got so much stuff going on. You got a giant robot that reprograms himself to grow big.
Yes.
I wanted that stuff. I wanted that comic book kind of feel to where, okay, so how do these factions all interact with each other? What's going to happen now? So that's what Realm of Goryo is. It's that vision come to life where we've got a civil war with aliens. We've got amphibious people in the Pacific Ocean with their own kaiju. We've got, the shady government organization. We've got robo-mechs. We've got a little bit of time travel eventually. It's all kind of wrapped up in one. Yes.
Spoiler alert, I haven't gotten to that book. You haven't given it.
The time travel has not come in major effect yet, but it's there. It's there for all the readers that are reading. There are time travel clues throughout this book.
Starting in what book?
From the very beginning.
Well, what's the title of that first book? Where should we start?
So the title of the first book is Realm of Goryo, The Four Pillars.
Okay.
Available on Amazon. You can check it out now.
Okay.
Let's see. What else would you like to hear? It's so hard to talk about this book sometimes.
Did I
there's
see
so much
earlier
invest.
that one of them is a choose your own adventure style
Yes,
book?
that this new year we have a choose your own adventure style book. So you get you're living in San Francisco, giant monster attacks, Calandra, and it's up to you to decide how to get out of the city and hopefully survive. It's not as easy as you think.
Okay. We play.
Oh, and Brandon did it. Great.
Going back. My finger didn't move. My finger didn't move.
There's the time travel.
You hold your place and you go back to where you didn't die.
Exactly.
We played a digital fighting fantasy book on the drive up here, and we died.
We did.
And it was a lot of setup. The opening text for the setup before you start making choices went on for quite some time, and the number of choices before we died was not enough. I feel.
But they're so much fun, right?
Yes.
That's why I had to make one myself.
Yeah,
I had to get in there.
Yeah, but I used to read all those the actual Choose Your Own Adventure when I was a kid, and then I discovered fighting fantasy later, which combine. I don't know if you're familiar, but it combines that with role playing. So you have a character sheet and dice, and so you can lose health or gain it or and mark down your treasure and stuff. And so it's basically if you lose the fight, turn to this page. If you win, turn to that page. And then it turned into a whole role playing game on its own. But that's neither here nor there. Tangents are part of the show.
Of course.
That all sounds great. What's the website people can find those?
So,
websites?
yeah, you can find
Amazon, of course.
Yeah, Amazon, of course. You can go to DaneGKroll.com, and that has a list of all of the Realm of Goryo books. And I think it might have more of my other books. I'm in the midst of updating the website.
Okay.
My laziness sometimes gets the better of me. But yeah, so you can check out the Realm of Goryo. Obviously, we've got also horror, sci-fi, fantasy going on, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Trying to write a book for every holiday that doesn't have a slasher in it.
I would love to. We got Black Friday in there. I'm not sure what other holidays we could do, but Black Friday might have some sequels one of these days.
All right.
I enjoy Black Friday.
I love Black Friday.
Everybody keeps taking my copies, so I can't.
I can get you a copy, Brandon.
I think I know the author.
You might have it in.
Yeah, and it's been so much fun working with these guys with Kaiju Assault because I think I had the first 3 books out when we started working together. So after that, it became more of a challenge for me to come up with the monsters that would be fun to play with.
Okay.
So the fight scenes get even more elaborate and more crazy. And sometimes let's see Brandon put this in the game.
We knew it.
And then usually he figures out a way to get in the game.
Questions and how often do I go?
I think the only one I was like, how's he going to get Hylor in the game? But I think he actually it's not in the game yet, but I think he did figure out a way to make it work. I don't remember.
I do have some notes for that, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, gentlemen, I know you've had a long day working in the dealer's room, so I don't want to keep you any longer, but thank you so much for stopping to talk to us here at G-Fest. And I look forward to checking out the game and the books.
Of course. Thank you.
We recommend all our listeners do the same.
Thank you very much. Have a good whatever you do.
And we're back at headquarters. Is Legion still a threat? Is Gamera a threat, or is he on our side? And they mentioned having read something or remembered something about a girl who can communicate with Gamera. And then we cut to a pachinko parlor where a dead Legion attacks, or a Legion attacks and then dies. And then at the Northeast Regional HQ, there is another pod at Sendai Subway, and it tears shit up just like the other one did at the other building. And there's another evacuation, and the pod's growing faster than the other one, and Midori speculates because it's a warmer climate. And she is forced to evacuate. So we do get some mild drive-by sexism here, but maybe just civilianism. Yeah, because they also do it to, what's his name? Lieutenant Colonel tells her she's got to evacuate. She's like, but I thought that I was in a Philo situation and was going to get to stay here through the whole thing. And he says, no, you got to go, and orders somebody to put her on a chopper, which doesn't go well. And then there's a woman on a crutch. Okay, I'm just now putting this together. There's a woman on a crutch. These are the ski girls from earlier, and one of them has had a skiing accident while we weren't looking, which is why she's on a crutch now. And the other one is Asagi. The one that's helping her is Asagi. And they're trying to evacuate and trying to get to the chopper as well. And Gamera's heading towards the city. The chopper can't take off. And yeah, this is where I realized that the girl helping the crutch girl was Asagi. Gamera flies by. Legion bursts up out of the ground and brings down Gamera.
No!
And crutch girl falls down, and Midori helps, and they get loaded on the copter. One of the choppers takes off. And Asagi's watching Gamera out the window, and there's a big fight.
Big fight, and Gamera rips off her nose.
He does rip off a big chunk. And Gamera is trying to protect us.
Duh!
And of course, Midori and Asagi are on the only chopper that can't take off. And somehow, is it the colonel? Somebody's like, oh, the choppers are taking off except for one. And he's like, ugh, because he just knows that it's the one with Midori on it. The pod is flowering, and the army pulls back, and then the chopper is away. And then Legion, I wrote Legion Blast. Does it do a energy weapon that we hadn't seen up till now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does like energy whips. Like whoosh,
yeah.
whoosh,
Yes,
whoosh.
Yes, that was it. And I noted that the effects with the chopper were really good. I don't know if they were using like a small remote control chopper on set or how they were doing this exactly, but the chopper's flying in front of Gamera and it looks really good. So I think it must have been a physical toy chopper on the set because it doesn't look like it's been blue screened. Legion burrows away and Midori recognizes
Gamera
Asagi.
sucks up that energy whips.
Yeah.
Makes it more powerful.
But at this point, Midori's like, hey, aren't you Asagi Kusanagi? And then the army rolls out. And Gamera heads towards the pod. But the pod blows up in his face.
Ah.
And he ignites all the oxygen. And then there is an explosion that is not a nuclear explosion, but looks a lot like a nuclear explosion. It makes a mushroom cloud and everything. Mm-hmm. And Sendai is annihilated. That's the city that they were in. The city is just gone. There's a huge crater left behind, which I thought was I was just a bit shocked that they took out an entire city. They always, trash a bunch of buildings and stuff, but they just wiped the whole city right off the map in this movie.
All of it.
And we get a bunch of headlines in English. No countermeasures to Legion. Danger of creature multiplication. Death hits Gamera? ? Exclamation points. Tokyo next. There's an army meeting with Midori. They will come in full force in desperation. The Legion. The army's concerned that the Legion will come in full force, and there's no Gamera to help. So we got to hit them first. Gamera's body, though, although there's a crater that took out the whole city, Gamera's body is still there, just sort of frozen, calcified, petrified.
Mm-hmm.
And
all the kids like, he's gonna wake up, right? Is he gonna wake up? I'm like, yes. Yeah, he's gonna wake up. Don't worry, baby.
In a little bit, people start gathering around his corpse, just camping out. But we get some computer shit with neon. I don't know what I'm talking about here. Compare with other signal, some bee stuff. She talks about bees. She's doing more, analogies and stuff, signals. And then she's taking a shower while the emergency news is on. We hear Midori taking a shower, but it's not a sexy movie shower. She comes out completely robed. I don't know. They're just trying to show us that she's at home trying to just, chill when
be a human.
More fucking news comes. And Prime Minister gives a speech and tells everybody that Tokyo is next. Then we do get some nudity in a public bath. We get a couple of guys' butts. People watching the news in a public bath, which is a thing in Japan. And has been forever. It's a cultural thing. And the Prime Minister, but none of these people are people we've seen up to this point in the movie, so I'm not sure they're just getting, man on the street reactions, I guess, from the...
Just some good old butts.
Yep.
Not important butts, but just some butts.
The Prime Minister is giving his constitutional justification for deploying the self-defense force. He's assuring, because, Japan doesn't have they have a self-defense force. They don't have a offensive force. They can only use it for self-defense under their constitution. They can't attack anybody. So he is just laying the groundwork to say the constitutional requirements have been met. We are under attack. I am activating the defense force.
We need Gamera's help.
Yeah, that too.
Just say it. Say you need his help.
The subtitles, he says, so I'm ordering the defense force to deploy. But in the dub, he says to deploy and destroy. Because somebody thought that sounded cool. So the defense force rolls out. There's news reports. Channel 6 newscopter. Midori and the Colonel have a moment where she tells him, I was hoping for a Philo, basically. Does that walk away and then stop and turn around. Colonel, yes. Be careful, which means I love you. But this doesn't go anywhere. It goes nowhere. Some old guy talks about a fire. There's a bunch of guys standing around, waiting for shit to happen, and this old guy's talking about him.
He's saying he's not talking about a fire. He's saying that when he was a kid, the things that they had to run from were fires.
Right.
Not
but there was some
giant kaiju.
Right. But there was always some people that ran into the fire, and today I'm going to hear ready to run into the fire, or words to that effect. Midori and Asagi are at the airport. They're the only ones catching a plane going north. Why there are any planes going north is beyond me. That should not be allowed at this point.
Well, it's so Asagi can get to Gamera, obviously.
Right. But it looks like they're just getting on a commercial flight. They're not chartering a private flight. They're just getting the one flight towards danger. And yeah, she tells us that Gamera's still alive. She knows it. There's choppers and tracking Legion. Choppers are tracking Legion. Tanks go. There's no radio communication, only telephone communication. And Obitsu is in a very purple coat for some reason. And this is when he's told to go fuck off. He's like, but Philo, I was been here. But the Colonel's like, no, you're civilian.
The whole time.
Yeah, civilian, you gotta go. But hey, we'll buy you, the captain's like, we'll buy you a beer when this is all over. You've earned it. But he sends him he doesn't make him totally evacuate. He tells him to go to the communications center. And it's nighttime in the city of Ashikaga, at the foot of Mount Akayuki. But also, meanwhile, at the same time, at Sendai Station, formerly Sendai Station, now the rubble of Sendai Station, And Gamera's corpse, people are hanging out and they're having trash can fires and just sort of there to give Gamera good vibes or something. Just praying. I don't know what they're...
Yeah, they're there like for the hope. People need
Yeah.
hope, and they're just there hoping that Gamera's gonna wake up with all. If they're all supporting together,
That's
know?
right.
Unity.
And you're correct. Legion confronts the tanks. Gamera is it's like a kid. His mom is like, "I guess Gamera, okay, he's just sleeping, honey. It's okay."
Mm-hmm.
Legion takes out 50% of the tanks and they retreat and call for more air support. Planes come in bombing, and he sends small legions to get the planes. The big one breaks through the first defense line. And then there's this weird shit going on with the embers from the fires and Asagi's amulet, and all the glowing embers sort of swarm around Gamera, and the good vibes work. He comes back to life.
Mm-hmm.
But the amulet breaks in her hand and cuts her.
Yeah, Gamera's awakened, but only at the sacrifice of his human connection.
Mm-hmm. And I wrote, "Go, Gamera!" He heads towards Asakagi and the big one. And he does a big sliding landing. What? Legion is heading north towards the big one? I don't know what I'm writing here. There's some general. We've seen this guy before. I'm assuming he's a general because he's above the lieutenant colonel, who doesn't want to help Gamera. And Obitsu's on the phone trying to get more power to some kind of power lines that they've set up. This was a little unclear. I mean, we see what happens in a minute, but I don't think they fully laid out this part of the plan unless he just comes up with it. So the Legion lands on a bunch of power lines. And I think he was calling for more power to attract them to these power lines. There's this weird power grid kind of thing, not just your normal lines. And they land on it. And the captain and the colonel convince the general to let them act, and they deploy some anti-tank helicopters, and we get a big monster fight.
Yeah.
Legion does some kind of power-up and heads to the second line of defense. Something about Gamera, I don't know what the hell I wrote.
Maybe it's that his chest opens up?
Yes.
And reveals a plasma cannon? Maybe that's what you wrote? 'Cause holy shit.
I think I wrote G beaten, but then he gets back up. Obitsu arrives. He grabs his purple coat and goes, and he shows up. Fight, fight, fight. I wrote G down. Army, aim at Legion. Help G. Small legions get shocked on the wires. Obitsu has a fight with the power plant manager. Get rid of transmitters on something. Small legion appears and the captain kills it. Gamera bites off one of Legion's arms or limbs or whatever. Claw things.
It's like her spike, like some sort of spike. I don't know.
Yeah. And then Legion suddenly has laser tentacles. The big one is past the last barricade. And G goes down again. Helicopters attack the power lines where the other legions are hanging out. The big one's something. The big one does something to it.
He stands up. He looks into the sky. He roars.
Midori's
Light
bandaging.
shines down upon him.
Yes. Midori bandages Asagi while this is going on. And then golden lights. Gamera absorbing power. Chest blast. Yeah, he sucks up a bunch of power from I'm not sure where. And
from her energy whips. Her fire laser whips. She laser whips into Gamera, and he just like absorbs it, and it just powers him up.
Yeah, he's like, "Ha, you fool! You're only making me more powerful."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and as you say, his kind of chest opens up and has a laser cannon inside or something.
Yeah. Well, I was like, "Oh shit!"
And somebody says this. I wrote down, "There's your defense line." Gamera wins. The sun rises, and Gamera rockets away, and all the soldiers stand there and salute him as he flies away.
Yeah, and he looks back at all of them. He kind of like looks back at all the humans like,
Yeah.
I love you, you dumb motherfuckers. I'll be back.
And Asagi says, sayonara. And then when it's all over, Midori and Obitsu have a little chat on the street, but do not have a love match or anything. They just have a little bit of a wrap-up talk about everything that just happened and what might happen. And then closing theme with a lot of
What
la
might
la la
happen.
la 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 la's in it.
They have a talk about what might happen if Gamera ever looked at humanity and as an enemy.
Yeah.
They're basically like, well, thank God that guy's on our side.
Yes. Honeybee, how many stars do you give Gamera against Legion? Gamera versus
Oh, man.
Gamera 2 Attack of Legion.
I think, oh man, because like I loved Guardian of the Universe so much, and I can't decide if I like this one as much or better. Like I can't decide which one is better, and I'm pretty sure I gave that one 5 stars. So I guess I'm gonna have to give this one 5 stars. Well, I'd say like a 4.8. Like it's high up there for me, for sure. What about you?
4, I think. I think I gave it 4 in the past.
Okay. Yeah, did you like the first one better than this one?
I don't know. I think about the same.
I feel like they're really close. Yeah, like they're really freaking close.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
It's very good.
And there's no Godzilla going on at this time, so Gamera's really keeping things alive in the Kaiju arena at this time. But there is about to be, even though there's no Godzilla, there's about to be some Mothra. In the same year, which will be next week's episode, Rebirth of Mothra, the first in a trilogy of Mothra
Freaking
movies.
out! Oh my god.
Pretty sure that those are also available on Prime, but I haven't checked. But I think you can watch them online. So yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll probably have some more G-Fest interviews included in the show, at least one. And we'll look at Rebirth of Mothra next week. Folks, if you enjoy the show, please tell your friends. Follow us on all the socials. Go to our website, mmftg.com. You can find the links to all our other stuff there, including our Patreon, where we are doing some special patron-only episodes. We're looking at the lyrics of Science Fiction Double Feature, where any moment now we will have an episode about Forbidden Planet. But I think that's going to do it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, I have been Precious D.
And I've been Honey Bee.
Remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements.
And please do not misuse science.
We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go. You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texacato Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/mmftg.